if you're driving, keep those eyes peeled on the road. But I want you to conjure a specific image. You are approaching Denver International Airport DIA, that massive, notoriously mysterious complex. And there, guarding the gateway, is this colossal, impossible beast.
Oh, it's unforgettable.
We're talking about a 32-foot-tall, rearing, electric blue Mustang. Its muscles look like they could just burst out of the fiberglass skin, and its veins are absolutely throbbing.
They're so prominent. It's anatomical in a really aggressive way.
And the eyes.
The eyes are the thing.
They are twin pools of glowing, illuminated, demonic red LED floodlights staring straight into your soul as you pass.
It is the ultimate visual confrontation. I mean, it's the definition of unavoidable public art. It's designed to be both a welcome and maybe a warning.
A warning, yeah. And for years, people in Denver have called this thing everything from a civic embarrassment to, like, literal satanic deity.
It is so hated and it is so loved. It's been vandalized, and yet it is undeniably one of the most famous and certainly the most storied pieces of art in the entire American West.
We are, of course, talking about the Blue Mustang, which earned its terrifying but also kind of affectionate nickname, Blucifer. But the story behind this powering figure is why we're here today, for the stories they said were too real to tell. Because the man who created this behemoth, the celebrated artist Luis Jimenez, he was killed by the sculpture itself before it was ever even installed.
And this isn't, just folklore or a myth that grew up around it. This is a documented fact. A piece of the statue came loose in his studio, it severed a major artery in his leg, and he bled out on the floor, consumed by his own creation.
It's unbelievable.
Public art is never just something to look at. Sometimes it becomes the anchor for genuine tragedy, civic myth, and decades of controversy. Our deep dive today is focused on unpacking the full legend of Blucifer, exploring the incredible dedication, the sheer bad luck, and the legal nightmares that plagued its creation.
And we're also going to contrast it with Denver's other notorious blue giant.
Yes, the big blue bear.
The equally immense but hilariously accidental blue bear. I see what you mean.
A much friendlier vibe with that one.
Completely different vibe.
Yeah.
We've assembled the full stack of sources, diving into the artist's highly charged personal history, the economics of public commissions under Denver's famous 1% mandate, and analyzing why these two massive blue animal sculptures.
One tragically deliberate, one serendipitously accidental.
Exactly. Why they've become these twin mythic symbols of the mile-high city.
Our mission is to really dissect why this specific hue of blue, coupled with this just gargantuan scale and intense emotional subject matter, generates such powerful cultural noise. I mean, what does the curse of the Mustang tell us about the true price of monumental art?
Right. And why does Denver, a city known for its beauty and, its whole outdoorsy lifestyle, choose to embrace the debate that these pieces ignite?
It's a fantastic question.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the tragedy that birthed the demon horse, Luis Jimenez, and the agonizing 16-year journey of Blue Mustang. So the story of Blucifer is not a quick commission. It is a marathon. A painful one. It starts all the way back in 1992. Denver International Airport, which we'll just call DIA, commissioned Luis Jimenez for this massive sculpture.
And they offered him an initial $300,000.
Which was the original price tag for a work that would, ultimately become this monumental source of stress and tragedy.
And it's so important to understand the initial concept, because it wasn't always a horse.
Oh.
DIA originally wanted a sculpture that depicted a buffalo stampede.
Right.
But Jimenez, who was always a really thoughtful social critic, he successfully argued against it.
He basically said it was a terrible idea.
Exactly. He pointed out the historical trauma there. Celebrating the buffalo was, to him, absurd, given that they were intentionally hunted to near extinction in the West. He felt it was a profoundly inappropriate symbol for a modern international gateway. Which
is such a sharp critique. You really can't put up a symbol of near genocide and then call it a welcoming feature.
It's just not a good look.
So Jimenez pivoted. He pivoted to the Mustang, a true, enduring symbol of the West. It represents freedom, the spirit of long-distance travel, and that kind of raw, untamed energy.
And he was the perfect artist for it. He was already a celebrated figure known for his large-scale fiberglass works, deeply rooted in his Chicano identity and Southwestern themes.
But from the very start, the sheer scale of the project was it was beyond immense.
And the process was anything but smooth. It became this 16-year crucible of frustration, technical delays, and mounting physical, emotional, and legal tolls on Jimenez.
The physical toll is honestly jaw-dropping.
It's a catalog of suffering.
It really is. It's hard to imagine anyone, let alone an artist, expected to wrestle with giant pieces of fiberglass and steel, carrying this kind of burden.
So what was he dealing with?
Okay, so he already suffered from persistent severe migraines. He had required multiple corrective surgeries on his vision. This was from a BB gun injury as a child.
Wow.
An injury so severe it eventually led to him needing a glass eye.
Oh my God. So he's working on this massive visual art piece with compromised vision.
And perhaps most critically, for his physical labor, he carried a lifelong, debilitating back injury from a car accident in his youth that had, at one point, caused temporary paralysis.
That existing fragility makes what happened next even more poignant, and frankly, it just fuels the whole Kirsten narrative.
It really does.
And this is where it gets really interesting. During the 14 years he was struggling to complete the Mustang, the physical setbacks just kept piling up.
It wasn't just the old injuries.
No. He suffered a serious heart attack. He required extensive hand surgery.
He was literally wrestling this 9,000-pound behemoth into existence while his own body was just failing piece by piece.
You can't make this stuff up.
So he's not just an artist battling a deadline. He's a man battling his own mortality, pouring what little physical stamina he had left into this one specific all-consuming commission.
And while he's doing this backbreaking work in his studio in Hondo, New Mexico.
The city of Denver is getting impatient.
Very impatient. All they see are missed deadlines.
Which led to a serious legal escalation.
It got ugly. Denver actually sued Jimenez to reclaim the $165,000 they had paid him up front.
Can you imagine?
It was an extremely public and I'm sure damaging dispute for him. But Jimenez didn't just roll over.
No, he countersued the city. He demanded the full payment for the years of labor he had already invested into the project.
And that legal fight is so critical because it basically solidifies the sculpture's hold on his life.
It traps him.
Completely. The mediation didn't resolve the matter with a simple cash settlement or by letting him off the hook. The mediator decided the only path forward was for Jimenez to complete the sculpture.
No matter the personal cost.
No matter what. That decree turns the art into this professional and legal millstone around his neck.
He had to finish it.
Imagine the psychological weight of that, knowing this one gigantic project has consumed years of your life, resulted in a heart attack, ruined your eyesight, broken your bank account for a while.
And yet, legally, you are bound to wrestle it into submission.
This backstory, it elevates Blucifer from just being public art to a kind of epic, agonizing struggle between man and material.
And this intense struggle, it all culminates in the fatal accident. The event that permanently sealed the sculpture's mythic, cursed fate.
This is the moment everything changes.
The date was June 13, 2006. Jimenez was 65 years old and working, pretty much alone in his studio in Hondo, deep in the New Mexico desert.
And he was maneuvering one of the three colossal sections of the Mustang.
The hindquarters, right.
The specific piece that made up the massive rearing hindquarters, yeah. He was using an electric hoist. So we're talking about thousands of pounds of steel and fiberglass just suspended in the air.
And in a catastrophic failure of mechanism or maybe just positioning, one of those sections came loose.
It fell.
It fell and pinned Jimenez against a heavy steel support beam. The impact was devastating and immediate.
It severed a major artery in his leg.
And he was so far from immediate medical help. The nearest proper medical center, Lincoln County Medical Center, was 28 miles away.
That's a long way when you're bleeding out.
Despite the efforts of staff who found him, Jimenez was pronounced dead on arrival.
He bled to death right there on the studio floor, essentially killed by the creation Denver had commissioned 14 years prior.
So what does this all mean? I mean, the ultimate piece of Western art, symbolizing raw freedom and energy, literally claims the life of its own creator.
It's a flawless Greek tragedy.
Except the medium isn't marble and verse. It's polychromed fiberglass and steel in the high desert.
And the precise manner of death is the genesis of the Blucifer legend. If he had died of that heart attack, it would have been tragic, of course.
But
this, being crushed and bled out by a piece of the art itself, it implies the sculpture had a violent, living will.
It makes the piece feel dangerous in a way that just transcends aesthetics.
Right. And then came the wrenching ethical dilemma for his surviving family and staff.
Unbelievable.
They're standing in a studio with a half-finished sculpture, stained with the artist's blood. The options were so heavy.
Do you destroy it? Do you just leave it incomplete as this monument to failure and tragedy?
Or do you somehow find the strength to finish the piece that killed your loved one?
And they decided to finish it.
They ultimately decided to honor his dedication by completing it. Jimenez had, thankfully, managed to finish the detailed painting of the head before his death.
That feels significant.
It does. The completion required the focused emotional labor of his staff, including painters Camila Nunez and Richard Lovato and his immediate family. They essentially had to inherit the curse and finish the project.
So they sent the massive sections to a specialized facility in California for assembly.
And then they shipped the gargantuan horse to Denver. It was finally unveiled on February 11th, 2008.
16 years after the contract was signed.
16 years. So when you look at it today, you aren't just looking at 9,000 pounds of art.
No. You are looking at a monument to a life entirely consumed by its creation.
And that profound weight, that tragic history, is now irreversibly baked into every single layer of blue paint and every intense flash of those red eyes.
You cannot experience the Mustang without knowing on some level the story of its creation. When you look at Blucifer, you aren't just looking at a horse. You're looking at a monument to grit, to legal pressure, and a visceral aesthetic that just screams, I am the raw, untamed American West, and I absolutely do not care if you like me.
That's the perfect segue into the aesthetics. Because to truly grasp why the Mustang is so confrontational, we have to look past the tragedy and examine Jimenez's artistic vocabulary.
Yeah, who was this guy?
He was born in El Paso, identified proudly as Chicano, and his heritage, the borderlands, the popular culture of the Southwest, was the absolute core of his work. He actively sought to champion the common man and elevate themes often dismissed by the traditional, white East Coast art establishment.
The origins of his technique give us the biggest clue about the aesthetics. His foundational training came from working in his father's neon sign shop in El Paso.
Exactly. Think about the skills that teaches you.
Welding, industrial spray painting.
Working with brilliant manufactured colors and manipulating neon lights. These are commercial, popular culture skills. This is not the traditional fine art training of marble or bronze.
It's a completely different language.
It's a deliberate, almost political choice to bridge that gap between fine art and commercial popular culture. His primary material was polychromed fiberglass. Polychrome, just meaning multicolored, which he applied in multiple airbrush layers with a thick, glossy epoxy coating.
And this is where the lowrider influence really shines through. He often incorporated flake.
That glitter,
Fine glitter we associate with customized lowrider car culture, which he grew up around. The final effect is not subtle realism. It's loud, it's vibrant, it's polished, and it's just bursting with energy.
It's a direct shout-out to the highly stylized, personalized art of the Chicano community.
And this material choice, the fiberglass, is so key. It allowed him to bring bright color and lots of energy to a scale that was previously reserved for, traditional monochrome bronzes.
He was also heavily influenced by the large-scale, politically charged colors of the Mexican muralists.
Like Rivera.
Like Diego Rivera and Jose Clemente Orozco, He was melding that bold modernism with his unique brand of regional pop culture realism.
So let's talk about the specific color choice, that bright blue.
It wasn't arbitrary.
No, though early sketches show concepts that were yellow or even pink.
Which honestly would have been hilarious in a different way.
A giant pink horse, I can't even. But the final intense blue was deeply personal. It was inspired by his own horse, a blue roan Appaloosa stallion named Blackjack.
And there are also some local tales that connect the color to a mythical blue stallion that was said to roam the San Luis Valley. So it has roots in both his personal life and local folklore.
The color is intense, it's aggressive, and it's artificial, which is why it grabs your attention.
But the most striking, attention-grabbing, and fear-inducing feature are those eyes.
The eyes.
Those illuminated, glowing red eyes. They are a direct, intentional tribute to the neon sign shop where he started his career.
He used LED floodlights to achieve that demonic glow. It's a stylistic choice that critics despise, but the public absolutely fixates on.
But why the immediate demonic association, if we connect this to the bigger picture?
I mean, in Western cinema and literature, animals with unnaturally glowing red eyes are almost universally figures of malice.
Right, demonic possession or death.
They pierce the darkness, they defy nature, Jimenez may have intended it as a beautiful neon tribute to his dad, but culturally, it reads as a massive warning sign.
And then there are the unavoidable physical details, the anatomy.
We have to go there.
We have to discuss the highly stylized features that make so many viewers uncomfortable. Our sources use the term exaggerated stylization, and public discourse constantly focuses on its prominent veins, its visible scrotum, and its overwhelming phallic quality.
And this wasn't an accident. This was a deliberate artistic choice. Jimenez wasn't aiming for a pretty, gentle horse.
No.
He was aiming for the raw, primal power of the West. The exaggerated muscles, the exposed veins, that's kinetic energy made visible. It's supposed to be unsettling. It's supposed to feel untamed and potentially dangerous.
And that refusal to blend in, that blatant hyperreality, is exactly what sparks the continuous controversy. It doesn't politely occupy civic space. It dominates it and demands a visceral reaction.
It instantly attracted disagreement and, frankly, fear, which led to those unforgettable nicknames.
Demon Mustang, Sight and Stallion.
And the most popular, of course, Blucifer.
But isn't the controversy, however dark, ultimately a gift to the art's legacy?
I think so.
Maybe.
Because the irony here is so sharp, the artist's estate actively dislikes the demonic association.
Oh, they hate it.
They want you to see the Chicana roots, the lowrider culture, the tribute to his father, the symbol of freedom. Yet the public took the tragic story, the red eyes, and the aggressive stance, and turned it into an immortal, cursed entity.
And that public intervention is what makes it a success, in a way.
Absolutely. In 2009, a massive Facebook group formed, specifically requesting the statue's removal. It got national attention.
And even years later, in 2016, there were organized petition attempts to move it to some less important, less visible spot.
They just didn't want it defining the gateway to their city. One Denver real estate agent who championed the removal efforts summed up the opposition perfectly.
What did he say?
He said, and I'm quoting, "Things with glowing eyes or culturally associated with the dead is not an image of positivity."
Wow. That gets right to the heart of the divide. For the public, it's not an aesthetic debate, it's a spiritual one. It feels actively malevolent to some people.
But art that forces this level of confrontation, this deep engagement, negative or positive, always has a more lasting cultural impact than a polite piece that just blends in. Blucifer is a permanent, high-volume conversation starter about Western identity, trauma, and the nature of beauty. It's a work that lives because people care enough to argue about it, hate it.
And as proven by the 2019 incident where it was vandalized with orange graffiti on its hooves, even deface it.
That graffiti incident is a perfect illustration of its focal point status. It just draws out this extreme emotional response, making it a living cultural landmark, not just a statue. Okay, so we've established that the Blue Mustang is defined by personal tragedy, intense physical labor, and deliberate confrontational aesthetics. Now let's pivot to Denver's other enormous blue animal, the bear. I see what you mean.
Yes.
If Lucifer's blue was intentional and deeply personal, the bear's blue was, impossibly, a total glorious accident.
They stand as these perfect contrasting love letters to the state of Colorado. Both are gargantuan, both are blue, and both serve as unavoidable landmarks.
But their origin stories could not be more different.
One is blood and grit, the other is bureaucratic serendipity.
The bear, which many locals affectionately call the Peekaboo Bear, is located downtown. It's dramatically leaning against the Colorado Convention Center's glass wall, appearing to peer inside at all the human activity.
And it's actually bigger than Blucifer. It stands 40 feet tall and weighs 10,000 pounds.
The artist was Lawrence Argent, a visual artist and a professor at the University of Denver. When he took the commission, he felt immense pressure to create something truly original. He was explicitly tasked with avoiding cliches. No more images of the Rockies, no more flatirons, nothing overused or passé.
He had to capture the spirit of Colorado without using the standard postcard images.
And he found his core inspiration in a simple local news story.
Which I love.
A bear had been sighted peeking into someone's home. And Argent realized this perfectly symbolized the tension between the urban environment and the wild environment of the state, the point where human civilization and wildlife overlap.
What's fascinating here is the absolute randomness of the color story.
It's the best part.
Argent originally planned for the bear to be earth tones, specifically sandstone colors that reflected Colorado's geological landscape. That was his formal artistic intent.
But here's the twist. When his design team produced a large format printout for review, it came back blue. A deep, vibrant lapis lazuli blue.
And why?
A simple mundane printing error or a miscalibrated machine. It was a complete mistake.
And that mistake sealed its fate. Argent looked at the blue printout and, instead of correcting the color back to sandstone, he just felt the blue was much more exciting and decided to keep it.
The ultimate color of one of Denver's most iconic permanent sculptures was determined by an office printer glitch.
I find that breathtaking.
Me too.
Imagine the contrast. Jimenez's blue was a deeply researched, intensely personal tribute to his own stallion and his Chicano heritage, arrived at after years of painstaking thought. Argent's blue was simply, oops, that looks cool.
Does the story of an accidental color choice actually cheapen the intent for some art critics who demand, deep symbolism?
Perhaps. But for the public, the lightheartedness of the story is part of its charm. It makes the bear accessible, playful, and far less threatening than the Mustang.
Yeah, the blue here feels like a cartoon, not a curse.
Exactly. The construction method is another radical point of contrast, too. While Jimenez was using traditional welding, spray guns, and gritty fiberglass inspired by lowriders.
Argent's construction was super modern and high-tech.
Absolutely. The bear was developed in California using cutting-edge technology, specifically 3D printing in separate, massive sections. It wasn't built like a traditional sculpture at all.
It was engineered.
It was engineered and printed, legs, belly, arms, and head transported, and then finished on site with the top coat of pigmented polymer concrete.
So you have the visceral, gritty, hands-on, low-rider-inspired fiberglass of Blucifer contrasted with the smooth, high-tech, 3D-printed, accidentally blue polymer concrete of the bear.
The materials tell the story of two completely different approaches to art and life. Jimenez's work is physical struggle, Argent's is technological play.
And despite their radical differences in origin and tone, one tragic, one serendipitous, they share a profound and unfortunate legacy.
Right. Both artists tragically died relatively young. Jimenez, at 65, killed by his own art. Argent passed away suddenly in 2017 at the age of 60.
They both left behind these monumental, unavoidable public art markers that permanently define Denver.
These blue giants, one representing intense, blood-soaked struggle, the other representing a moment of pure accidental discovery, both stand as permanent myth-making reminders of the West.
It connects them in a way that goes beyond just the blue color.
Yeah, they're monuments to human fragility and the overwhelming, enduring power of the art they left behind.
We've established that these two monumental blue sculptures are deeply integrated into the city's identity. But the existence of both the $650,000 Blucifer and the massive blue bear, and frankly all the controversial public art in Denver, goes back to a single, progressive, but often highly controversial civic policy.
We are talking about the Denver 1% mandate. It's been in effect since 1988. This is the structural mechanism that funded these gargantuan pieces and ensures public art is an essential part of the city's identity.
Let's define the process for you, because it's a critical piece of this whole puzzle. The 1% mandate requires that 1% of the construction cost of any major city-funded capital project,
things like libraries, recreation centers, or airports,
must be dedicated to public art. It is a mandatory set-aside for art acquisition.
Which means the art budget is automatically tied to the pace and scale of civic development.
Right. So when the city builds a massive new convention center or an international airport, it automatically generates hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for public art commissions.
This policy ensures that art is woven into the city's fabric, rather than being an afterthought reliant on private donations.
And this mechanism is why Denver has such a rich, varied, and crucially often debated public art scene. It guarantees investment.
But the funding for Blucifer specifically became a public relations nightmare, even before the artist died.
The initial commission was $300,000. But because of the 16 years of delays, the legal issues with the suit and countersuit, the cost overruns for the specialized materials, and the need to hire staff to finish the piece after Jimenez's death.
The city ultimately paid $650,000 for the completed sculpture.
It more than doubled the original budget.
That's a huge spike in cost for a piece that a lot of people actively hated from day one.
But what is its value today? A 2007 appraisal, and this was before the piece was even fully installed, valued the work at $2 million.
Wow.
And sources confirm the city now insures it at that value.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, this means a $300,000 commission grew into a piece valued nearly 7 times higher.
Yeah.
The city invested $650,000 and now owns a major asset worth millions. From a purely economic perspective, it was a sound, if morbid, investment.
But this fact just fuels the debate. Is the city paying too much for art that many residents find offensive or, cursed?
And the installation of Blucifer, separate from the creation nightmare, compounded its negative public image.
Hmm.
The horse is located right in the median of Peña Boulevard, the sole major artery into DIA. It's a striking but highly inaccessible location.
And Jimenez's original plans for the site were much more intimate.
They were. He envisioned an ornate base and a roadside turnoff where viewers could safely pull over, stop, and get closer to the sculpture, maybe even walk around it.
But the world changed during that long delay. Those roadside plans were entirely canceled after the September 11th attacks in 2001.
Right. Suddenly, the security landscape at a major international airport was drastically different. The concept of encouraging traffic to slow down and stop near a main entrance was a non-starter because of security concerns.
There was even talk of placing the sculpture inside the terminal.
Which is truly wild to imagine, a 32-foot-tall, glowing-eyed demon horse in the food court.
But that space was ultimately needed for the expansion of the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA. So Blucifer was permanently exiled to the median.
The result is that the artwork, intended to be a welcoming and interactive symbol of the West, is now intentionally placed where airport visitors are forced to view it speeding past on the highway.
It's always confrontational, always distant, and always imposing.
And this imposed distance, combined with its striking, glowing appearance, only reinforces its status as an untouchable, almost divine or cursed landmark. It's not art that invites critical inspection, it's art that imposes itself upon you, making its controversy even harder to escape.
And this intense, unavoidable presence makes the art a natural target. We mentioned the 2019 vandalism when Blucifer was hit with that orange graffiti.
But the pressure has been constant. The
Yeah.
Facebook groups, the petitions, the ongoing op-eds, it just never stops.
And this speaks volumes about the emotional investment the public has in this piece. You don't petition for the removal of a nice fountain.
No.
You petition for the removal of something that genuinely unsettles you or challenges your civic identity.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of Denver's public art, Blucifer represents the extreme outcome of the 1% mandate. Denver's downtown is full of public art.
Oh yeah, like Dancers at the Performing Arts Complex with music by Jonathan Borofsky, or the whimsical The Yearling.
The small bronze horse perched on a gigantic red chair by Donald Lipsky. I love that one.
Me too. These pieces, while sometimes quirky, largely invite curiosity and joy. But the city continues to commission new work, and the newest additions often feel like a direct response to the Blucifer controversy.
Take, for instance, the recent addition, Ringo the Rhino in Denargo Market.
Wait, tell me about Ringo. Is it blue?
It's not blue, but it's conceptually the opposite of Blucifer. Ringo is a monumental steel sculpture conceptualized by Sasaki and created by Juno Works and Eldorado Walls.
Yeah.
And crucially, it is explicitly designed to be an interactive, climbable landmark. It promotes a people-first focus.
Oh, interesting.
It's meant to be a beacon of joy, imagination, and welcomed human interaction.
That's a stark contrast. So you have Ringo, which invites you to climb it and touch it, representing civic positivity and openness.
Versus Blucifer, which killed its creator, has glowing eyes associated with the dead, and is explicitly too dangerous and security-sensitive to approach.
The existence of these two massive blue giants, the tragic aggressive Mustang and the accidental peaking bear, forces a larger ongoing conversation about Western identity, heritage, and artistic expression.
These pieces ensure that civic conversation happens every single day in Denver, whether the residents like the topic or not.
It raises a powerful set of questions about the nature of public art that doesn't just blend in. These massive installations, fueled by the 1% mandate, dictate the visual language of the city.
And the most intense pieces, like Blucifer, tend to be the ones stained by real-life drama.
We started this deep dive with the premise that some stories are just too real to tell. And we saw Luis Jimenez, an artist grappling with his own severe health issues,
Crippling migraines, a glass eye, a heart attack, temporary paralysis.
pouring his entire identity and physical self into this massive fiberglass creature.
And that intense, health-plagued life was violently cut short when a section of the Blue Mustang severed an artery, causing his death at 65. It remains an agonizing, poetic narrative of an artist literally consumed by his final, cursed masterpiece.
And you contrast that tragic commitment with Lawrence Argent, whose Bear, I see what you mean, received its iconic, high-contrast lapis lazuli blue, not from some grand personal vision.
But because a printer glitched and he just liked the mistake.
Argent embraced the serendipity, but he too died suddenly at age 60, leaving behind a permanent, playful myth that complements the darkness of Blucifer.
The contrast is stunning. Calculated, tragic controversy versus accidental, whimsical success.
Yet both sculptures, born from Denver's progressive 1% public art commitment, have created lasting myth-making installations that are completely unavoidable. They define the visual identity of the city for generations.
They remind us that the legacy of Blucifer proves that sometimes the most permanent marks public art can leave are those stained by the real-life drama, the legal controversies, and even the literal blood of their creation. The art becomes more than fiberglass. It becomes a piece of history and myth.
And this raises an important question for you to mull over. When public art is so intensely charged, so controversial, and so tightly bound to real-life tragedy, does its cultural impact, its sheer visibility and mythic status, transcend the initial financial cost, the artistic intent, and the public distress it causes?
Is that high price, that civic drama, ultimately worth the profound ongoing cultural conversation?